The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador HFY of the Zephyrian Collective stood before the assembled representatives of 47 civilizations. His crystalline form flickered with nervous energy, casting prismatic shadows across the curved walls of the station. His esteemed colleagues, HFY began, his voice resonating through the translation matrix, we must discuss the situation with humanity. A collective shudder rippled through the chamber. The humans had been members of the Galactic Council for barely 2 standard cycles, yet their reputation preceded them like a quantum shockwave through folded space. Council Prime Zelthara, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate crystalline vessel, pulsed with concern. Ambassador HFY, please elaborate on the nature of your concerns. HFY's form brightened. 3 rotations ago, I visited the human research station orbiting their star soul. They were experimenting with dimensional barriers again. The chamber erupted in whispers. The Velkari delegation's tentacles writhed in distress, while the silicon-based Kron representatives began a harmonic wail of warning. I explicitly warned them, HFY continued, that their approach violated the Heisenberg-Valdres principle. I explained that attempting to manually fold spacetime without proper quantum stabilizers would tear holes in reality itself. Do you know what their chief scientist told me? The chamber waited in tense silence. She said, and I quote, "That's adorable. Hold my coffee." If the chamber had possessed a physical atmosphere, one could have heard a pin drop through 17 dimensions. Dr. Sarah Chen didn't consider herself particularly rebellious. She was simply curious about why the universe insisted on having rules when those rules were clearly more like suggestions. Standing in the observation deck of Research Station Prometheus, she watched her team prepare for what the Council would undoubtedly classify as catastrophically inadvisable. Status report. Marcus, she called to her chief engineer. Marcus Rodriguez looked up from his quantum manipulation console, grinning. The fold drive is operating at parameters that should, according to every known law of physics, cause a cascade failure that unravels local spacetime. Excellent. And Jake? Dr. Jake Thompson, their theoretical physicist, didn't look up from his calculations. I've run the numbers through every simulation we have. The math says we should all be dead just from turning this thing on. Perfect. Sarah took a sip of her coffee, the same cup that had scandalized Ambassador HFY. Any word from the Council? They've sent 14 separate warnings in the last hour, reported Communications Officer Lisa Park. The latest one is titled, Urgent. Please stop before you destroy everything. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Send them back a message. Define everything. Boss, Marcus called out, we're ready to initiate the fold. What humanity was attempting had never been done before, and for good reason. Every galactic civilization had learned through bitter experience that space-time was not to be trifled with. The Andromedans had lost an entire solar system trying to create artificial wormholes. The Centaurians had accidentally shifted their homeworld into a parallel dimension and had spent 3 millennia trying to get back. But humans, Sarah reflected, had always been different. They were the species that looked at natural selection and said, we can do better. They were the ones who saw a perfectly good planet and thought, this needs more explosions and faster transportation. Initiating fold in 3, 2, 1. The universe held its breath. In the Galactic Council chamber, emergency alarms began shrieking across 47 different communication frequencies. Sensor arrays throughout the galaxy detected an impossible energy signature emanating from the Sol system. They've done it, whispered a Vorthan delegate, all 6 of his heads turning pale. They've actually torn a hole in spacetime. Council Prime Zelthara's energy form flared. Prepare the evacuation fleets. If they've destabilized the local continuum, the transmission array suddenly crackled to life. Dr. Chen's voice filled the chamber, tinged with what could only be described as gleeful satisfaction. Galactic Council, this is Research Station Prometheus. We're happy to report that we've successfully completed our first stable spacetime fold. Stunned silence. Furthermore, Chen continued, we've achieved instantaneous transportation across a distance of 12 light-years, with 0 temporal displacement and minimal reality distortion. We'd like to formally request permission to begin commercial applications. Kethvar's crystalline form flickered rapidly, the Zephyrian equivalent of a nervous breakdown. But the Heisenberg-Valdris principle? Oh, that. Chen's voice carried across the void, accompanied by what sounded suspiciously like slurping coffee. We figured out the problem. You were carrying the one wrong in the quantum fluctuation matrix. Easy mistake to make if you've never had to fix a toaster with a paperclip in pure stubbornness. 3 standard cycles later, the Galactic Council had established the Department of Human Oversight, tasked with monitoring humanity's increasingly creative interpretations of physical law. The department's motto, suggested by Dr. Chen herself, read, "If you're not violating causality, you're not trying hard enough." The full-drive technology revolutionized galactic transportation, reducing travel times by 99.7% and making the universe feel considerably smaller. Tourism boomed. Trade flourished. Several civilizations that had been at war for millennia discovered they were actually quite nice when you could visit them for lunch. Ambassador Kethvar, now serving as liaison to the Human Research Division, had developed what his species euphemistically called quantum stress syndrome. His crystalline form had taken on a permanent nervous flicker. During his weekly report to the Council, he stood before the Assembly with a datapad containing humanity's latest projects. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, his voice carrying the weariness of someone who had seen too much. "This week, humanity has announced 3 new research initiatives. First, they wish to investigate the possibility of creating artificial gravity by convincing matter to be more optimistic about its weight. Second, they're exploring faster-than-light communication by teaching photons to skip steps. And third," he paused, his form dimming. "Third, they want to build a device that makes stars run more efficiently because, and I quote, fusion is clearly just nuclear fire, and humans have been really good at making better fires for like 10,000 years." The chamber filled with the sound of 46 civilizations collectively deciding they needed stronger medications. In the depths of space aboard Research Station Prometheus, Dr. Sarah Chen finished her coffee and smiled. The universe was vast, mysterious, and full of rules that had clearly never met a properly motivated human with a deadline. She opened her laptop and began typing her next research proposal. Project Starfix. Why settle for nuclear fusion when you can have nuclear fusion with attitude? After all, someone had to keep the universe interesting.